Today on the Daily Scoop podcast from the Scoop News Group, veteran federal IT industry leader Teresa Carlson joins Anthropic, and U.S. Army websites have been defaced with pro-Kurdish sentiments and insults to President Trump. It's Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Welcome to the Daily Scoop podcast, where you'll hear the latest news and trends facing government leaders. I'm the host of the Daily Scoop podcast, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for joining me. And now let's dive into the day's top headlines. Longtime IT industry leader Teresa Carlson has joined Anthropic to lead its public sector strategy as the artificial intelligence company navigates relationships with the U.S. and other governments. Carlson, who is known for her past leadership at Microsoft and Amazon Web Services, is now Anthropic's global head of public sector, the Claude maker shared on Tuesday. She is the first person to hold that title at the company. Carlson said in a written statement shared with FedScoop, quote, "After more than 2 decades helping government leaders navigate new technologies, I joined Anthropic because it prioritized working alongside government early and takes this as seriously as anything it does. AI is changing how we work and how we live, and that change has to happen in collaboration with governments," unquote. Carlson has held a long career leading public sector strategy for tech companies. In the 2000s, she served as vice president of federal sales and operations at Microsoft for roughly a decade, and later moved to AWS, where she spent another decade building out its global public sector work. In more recent years, Carlson has held a number of titles. She was president and chief growth officer at Splunk, rejoined Microsoft as a corporate vice president and entrepreneur in residence, and most recently served as founding CEO of General Catalyst Institute, a public policy offshoot of a venture capital firm that counts Anthropic among its investees. She is also currently vice chair of the White House Historical Association, a trustee of the National Portrait Gallery, and a board and executive committee member of the Atlantic Council. Now moving on to other news. Multiple U.S. Army internet subdomains were defaced in a 404 hijacking campaign, Cyberscoop has confirmed. As of Monday morning, error packages on 2 U.S. Army websites displayed defacement messages visible to users. The messages denigrated President Donald Trump and U.S. Ambassador to Turkey Tom Barrack. The message also made calls to, quote, "Free Kurdistan," and included another line reading, "Kurdistan SR was here." One of the websites, oil.army.mil, belongs to the Army's Open Innovation Lab, a test bed for software and cyber capabilities established in 2020. The other belongs to the Artificial Intelligence Integration Center, established in 2019 to integrate AI technologies into the Army and train personnel on emerging technologies. The defacements were initially discovered by independent cyber researcher Ronald Lovelace, who notified U.S. Army officials as well as Cyberscoop. 404 hijacking exploits a website's error handling system, often by compromising a plugin, content management system, or server configuration, to control what content gets displayed when a page isn't found, rather than breaching the site's core pages directly. This lets malicious users insert defacement messages, malicious redirects, or other unauthorized content that visitors see specifically on error pages, sometimes making the compromise harder to detect since the rest of the site appears untouched. Lovelace said the affected sites run on WordPress and Microsoft Cloud infrastructure. It's not clear how long the subdomains have been compromised or whether other subdomains are affected. However, while the defacement's presence across multiple subdomains suggests the potential for broad reach, it doesn't appear to affect all Army websites, with many still showing normal 404 error pages. Also unclear is how the hackers gained the ability to edit error pages for those websites, whether the breach originated internally, and whether the intrusion extends beyond limited website defacement. The websites were taken offline after Cyberscoop reached out to the Army for comment. An Army spokesperson told Cyberscoop that the pages were hosted on a legacy third-party platform that is not connected to the Army's enterprise network and have since been removed. For more news at the intersection of the federal government and technology, make sure to visit fedscoop.com. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Daily Scoop podcast, available on all podcast platforms. If you've already rated the podcast on your platform of choice, thanks so much. High ratings and good reviews of the show help more people to find it. The Daily Scoop podcast is a production of the Scoop News Group in Washington, D.C. Adam Butler and Carlin Fisher help put the show together, and the entire Scoop News Group team contributes. We'll be back tomorrow with more top headlines. Until then, I'm your host, as always, Billy Mitchell. Thanks so much for listening.